welcome to those of you who have just joined us. Again, I'm Jamie Fly, the Executive Director of the Foreign Policy Initiative. Welcome to all of you watching this live on C-SPAN. You can follow us on Twitter at Foreign Policy I throughout the rest of the afternoon, and we're using the hashtag FPI Forum, and we're going to be accepting some questions over Twitter for the next 2 sessions. This morning we heard from a number of members of Congress and others about a variety of challenges facing the United States in the next 4 years. Today, for this session, we're going to talk about an issue that I think doesn't get enough attention, North Korea. And we've got a very impressive young man here to discuss his remarkable story. Christian's going to introduce him in a minute, but I suggest you also check out Blaine Harden's book, Escape from Camp 14, about Shin's journey to the West, to South Korea, and to the United States. And I'll now turn it over to Christian Karl, who is a senior fellow at the Legatum Institute, an organization in London that the Foreign Policy Initiative has done a lot of work with in the past. He's also a contributing editor at Foreign Policy Magazine, where he edits Democracy Lab, which is an online publication devoted to countries aspiring to make the transition from authoritarianism to democracy. And so I think Christian's a perfect person to conduct this session with Shin, and I'll leave him now to introduce Shin and get our conversation started.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me all right? No? Not sure if this is... Is that it? Okay, good. Okay, so I just want to say it's a great honor to be here. I have, in fact, met Shin before. It was a very moving experience. This is an amazing book. If you haven't read it already, I strongly recommend that you do. It's a horrible cliche, I know, to say that you can't really, if you live in freedom, it's very easy to take it for granted. I think we all say that. But it's a long way from saying that to actually imagining what it's like to be born, not just to be in prison, but to be born in a concentration camp, to parents who are both inmates, and to grow up there, to spend your entire life there, in a world that knows no conventional morality, not even the idea of freedom. This is one of the reasons why this book is such a powerful document. There are about 26 people in the world who have actually escaped from North Korean concentration camps. Shin, as far as we know, is the only person among them to have actually been born in one. And I'd like to just set the stage a little bit by reading from one of the early chapters of this book. The Korean Bar Association, as Blaine mentions in his book, compiled a report on the North Korean camps and basically break it down into this picture. Daily life in the camps. A few prisoners are publicly executed every year. Others are beaten to death or secretly murdered by guards who have almost complete license to abuse and rape prisoners. Most prisoners tend crops, mine coal, sew military uniforms, or make cement while subsisting on a near-starvation diet of corn, cabbage, and salt. They lose their teeth, their gums turn black, their bones weaken, and as they enter their 40s, they hunch over at the waist. Issued a set of clothes once or twice a year, they commonly work and sleep in filthy rags, living without soap, socks, gloves, underclothes, or toilet paper. 12 to 15-hour workdays are mandatory until prisoners die, usually of malnutrition-related illnesses, before they turn 50. Although precise numbers are impossible to obtain, Western governments and human rights groups estimate that hundreds of thousands of people have perished in these camps. And I don't need to say, of course, that that is happening right now at this precise moment as we sit here. Shin, I wanted to ask you a question which I've often wondered about since I read this book about your experiences. This is a story with a lot of really terrible pain and suffering, and I wonder if, with a happy end, I'm glad to say, of a sort, but I wonder, has having your story told this way and traveling around the world to tell it to people, has that been hard for you, or has that been in some ways a liberating experience?
뭐 이 책 나오기 전에도 이제 뭐 몇 년째 이제 한국에서 이제 인권 활동을 했고 국제사회에서도 이제 수많은 이제 뭐 얘기를 하고 또 수많은 사람들을 만나면서 저에 대한 스토리 또 정치범 수용소에 대한 스토리를 얘기를 많이 하고 있습니다.
Before this book came out, written by Mr. Hardin, I was involved for quite some time in South Korea regarding human rights work for North Korea, and I did speak in many parts of the world before this book came out.
뭐 얘기하면 얘기할수록 이제 뭐 힘든 것만은 사실입니다. 뭐 정신적으로나 아니면 뭐 육체적으로나 이제 피곤하고 뭐 스트레스 받고 하는 일들이 많이 있죠.
And of course, the more I speak about my experience, the more I talk, it is mentally and physically exhausting, and it brings stress to me.
근데 그보다 이제 가장 힘든 게 하나 있죠.
But there is one difficult thing that is there is one thing that is very difficult.
제가 수용소를 탈출하고 거의 5년 동안 전 세계를 다니면서 지금까지 이 북한 인권 문제, 정치범 수용소에 대한 문제를 얘기하고 다녔지만 북한은 아직 단 조금이라도 변한 게 없다는 거예요.
And that difficult thing is, even though I spent close to 5 years traveling all over the world speaking about the North Korean human rights issue, in particular the political prison camp issue, what is difficult for me to accept is the fact that the North Korean regime has not shown one single change or difference in the way they are acting in terms of related to what the work that I've done in speaking out.
물론 이제 뭐 미국에서 저를 초청하고 유럽에서 저를 초청하고 이제 어디서 초청할 때는 이제 제 결정에 의해서 가긴 하지만 이렇게 하면 할수록 이제 사실 더 많은 사람들이 북한 문제에 대해서 정치범 문제에 대해서 알면 알수록 북한이 정말로 정치범 수용소에 갇혀 있는 죄수들을 풀어줄 수 있을까 하는 의문을 더 많이 가지는 것도 사실이고요.
And of course, when different organizations and people invite me, whether that's from the U.S. or Europe or any other countries, ultimately it's up to me to decide whether I want to go and speak at these events. But I believe that the more I speak about this issue and the more I participate in these events, perhaps the North Korean regime will not turn a blind eye and they will not ignore this issue and that they will perhaps change their ways and even lead to freeing the people that are held in the prison camps in North Korea right now.
사실 여기 와 앉아 계시는 사람들 중에서 그 누구도 자기의 정말 이 과거 가슴 아픈 과거를 남들한테 얘기하고 다니고 또 자기의 가슴 아픈 과거를 뭐 언론이나 신문에 공개하고 그렇게 그걸 좋아할 사람은 단 한 명도 없다고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
And I believe that there's nobody here in this room that would like to talk about something that's happened in the past, something that's very painful and horrible, and no one would like their past, painful past to be told through the media, through the newspapers, or through the books.
근데 이제 그렇게 할 수밖에 없는 이유가 있죠.
However, even though it's difficult, I have no choice but to continue doing what I'm doing right now.
제가 2008년에 처음으로 이제 워싱턴 D.C. 방문했던 적이 있습니다.
I had the chance to visit Washington D.C. for the first time in 2008.
그 전까지는 뭐 다니면서 이제 한두 마디씩 사람들한테 얘기해주고 아무 생각 없이 그렇게 다녔었죠.
Before that visit to D.C. in 2008, when I traveled to different places for speeches and testimonies, I just went there and spoke, and I really didn't give much thought to my participation.
근데 이제 그 홀로코스트 미디엄에서 가장 충격적인 장면을 하나 보게 됩니다, 제가.
However, at the Holocaust Museum, which I visited in 2008, I saw a very shocking scene before my eyes.
그 장면이 어떤 장면이냐면 그 나치 수용소가 열리고 연합군이 나치 수용소에 들어가서 군인 한 명이 이제 불도저로 이제 죽은 사람들을 시체들을 이제 땅에다 묻는데 그 사람이 너무 냄새가 심해서 눈도 잘 못 뜨고 입을 가리우고 이렇게 고통스럽게 이 불도저로 사람들을 묻는 장면을 보게 됩니다.
And that shocking scene that I saw was a footage or photo of when the Allied forces freed the Nazi concentration camp, and that particular scene was where an Allied soldier was using a bulldozer to bury the countless dead bodies of the Jewish victims of the Nazi death camp. And the smell obviously was so bad that the soldier in the picture or in the footage covered his nose and wrinkled his eyes. And that scene was a very shocking revelation to me.
저는 이제 그 장면을 보면서 저희가 살았던 정치범 수용소의 미래를 보게 됐던 거죠.
And the moment I saw that, I saw the future of the political prison camp system of North Korea.
그리고 그때 그 군인이 고통스럽게 입을 막고 눈을 가리우고 시체들을 땅에다 묻었는데 그게 마지막이 아니라는 거예요.
And the scene of the soldier wrinkling his nose and his eyes and using a bulldozer to bury the dead bodies, that scene did not end there at that point in time, but it's going on right now.
지금 우리가 이 자리에 앉아 있지만 지금도 제가 살았던 정치범 성소에서는 그 누가 태어나고 있을 거고 또 태어났을 거고 앞으로도 누가 태어날 거고 그런 상황이라는 거죠.
And the situation is we are all sitting here in this room, but right now as I speak, in the political prison camp system of North Korea, somebody is being born, somebody will continue to be born in that system.
사실 이 스케이프 캠프 14 보신 분들은 굉장히 고통스럽고 이제 어떤 분들은 이 책을 읽으면서 호러 영화를 보는 것 같다 하는 느낌을 받았다고 그래요.
And some people have told me, for those that have read the book by Mr. Hardin, Escape from Camp 14, that as they read the book, it felt like they were reading a horror novel, a horror story.
하지만 그런 거 전혀 모르고 이해를 못하고 보는 사람들은 그게 호러 영화일지 몰라도 제가 살았던 정치범 성소에서는 그게 현실이었고 또 그렇게 고통을 당하는 사람들은 또 그게 당연하다고 생각을 하고 사는 거죠.
However, for people that may not have known about this issue, reading it might be a horror novel, horror story to them. But for me, it was a reality that I lived through. And for those that are still in the prison camp, that's the life that they're living right now.
뭐 그 안에서 태어나서 눈을 떠서 처음으로 세상을 봤을 때 그 세상은 총을 메고 다니는 간수하고 제수복을 입고 다니는 제수가 처음에 눈에 보이는 거예요.
And for those that are born in the prison camp, the moment they are able to open their eyes and see the world, the first thing they see are prison guards carrying rifles, and they see prison inmates wearing prison garb in the prison camp.
그리고 그들이 처음으로 이제 굴을 배우기 시작할 때 가장 처음에 배울 수 있었던 거는 수용소에서 탈출하면 안 되고 수용소에서 만약 탈출했을 경우에는 가차없이 공개처형을 당한다는 그런 법을 가장 먼저 배우게 되는 거죠.
And the first thing that prisoners learn is the fact that if they escape, they will be punished. That they will be punished by death, and that that is the rule that cannot be broken. So rules and regulations of the camp are the first things that are taught to the prison inmates.
저도 물론 탈출하기 전까지는 그런 생각을 하고 살았었던 거죠.
And I myself had only those thoughts. I was only taught those things before I escaped from the prison camp.
Right. Now, tell me, please, we don't want to dwell too much on what it was like in the camps themselves because it's obviously hard to talk about. How do you explain to people like us or to people who are living in South Korea or in Europe what this camp was like? What are the details that you tell people to convey to them some sense of this world that you were born into in the camps?
한 1년 전까지는 그냥 수용소 그냥 북한에서 일어나고 있는 수용소 얘기만 계속 해줬었습니다. 많은 사람들한테요.
About up to a year ago, when I gave speeches and talks, I focused mainly on the political prison camp issue of North Korea.
근데 이제 그때 그런 얘기를 했을 때에 많은 사람들이 듣고 끔찍하고 그냥 상상이 안 된다 하는 정도의 생각만 하고 그냥 얘기 듣고 나서는 그냥 그게 다인 거예요. 아무것도 없었습니다.
And the people that heard me speak at these speeches and events, their response was mainly, "Wow, this is a horrible situation. It's beyond imagination," and it basically stopped at that.
근데 이제 최근에는 이제 나름 제 생각에는 뭐 그냥 이렇게 계속 얘기한다고 하게 되면은 뭐 한 5년 후에나 10년 후에나 계속 변하지 않고 계속 같은 것만 반복되기 때문에 다시 제 생각을 이제 붙여가지고 말하는 방법 바꾼 거죠.
However, recently I came to the conclusion that if I just continue to speak the same way, this same thing, same reaction will be repeating itself many times over in the years to come. So I decided to change or shift the way I would talk about the issue in North Korea.
그래서 지금은 이제 제가 여러분들한테 말씀드릴 때의 방법은 그냥 여러분들이 다 알고 있는 사실을 제가 반복적으로 이제 말씀해드리는 게 많아요.
So in many ways, the things that all of us may be already aware of, I am using my own, I guess, unique perspective to tell the story and tell the issue in my own way.
그거는 이제 여러분들이 60년 다 아는 사실인데 여러분들이 60년 전에 봤던 홀로코스트의 나치 수용소, 또 40년에 우리가 봤던 캄보디아의 킬링필드, 또 30년 전에 봤던 수단 다르푸르, 또 20년 전에 코소와 같은 그 끔찍한 상황들 여러분들한테 다시 상기시키고 있습니다.
And that is, I want to touch upon what happened in history. For example, 60 years ago, what happened with the Nazis and the concentration camps, what happened almost 40 years ago in Cambodia with the killing fields, what happened in Kosovo, what happened in Darfur, and use those as points of reference as I tell the story of the issue of the political prison camps and the human rights situation in North Korea.
Let me ask you one question. Maybe this will help to bring it home to people. What was your attitude towards food when you were a boy living in the camp?
물론 수용소에서는 이제 음식을 생산할 때에 뭐 여러 가지 음식들을 많이 생산하고 있습니다. 저희 죄수들이.
Well, in the prison camp system, the inmates, through manual labor and slave labor, they produce a lot of the food in the prison camp.
그렇지만 이제 우리 죄수들이 먹는 음식은 정해져 있죠.
However, the food that the prison inmates ate, that was predetermined, that was set. There was no deviation from what was given to us by the prison camp.
뭐 옥수수로만 우리가 먹어야 되고 그 외에 뭐 벌레를 잡아먹는다든지 뭐 쥐를 잡아먹는다든지 한 거는 이제 간수가 승인했을 때만 먹을 수 있는 거고요.
Our meal was mainly, it consisted mainly of a corn-based meal, and regarding insects or rats to supplement our diet, that was only allowed when we had the permission of the prison guards.
하지만 이제 거기 살고 있는 죄수들한테는 이제 그런 우리가 당하고 있고 우리가 받는 그런 여러 가지 상황들이 너무나도 당연한 거죠. 거기에 대한 질문이나 거기에 대한 의문점은 전혀 우리는 가져본 적은 없어요.
However, for us inmates, we never questioned or we never doubted this sort of existence where we were only allowed to eat certain foods. And for me, that was, it just seemed the acceptable thing, a natural thing for me to be living like that.
뭐 심지어 뭐 쥐를 한 마리 이제 잡아먹고 싶은데 이제 그거를 잡기 위해서는 간수한테 보고를 해야 되고 또 간수는 이제 그 죄수들이 쥐를 어떻게 먹는지 구경하기 위해서 자기 앞에서 좀 먹어보라고 시키기도 하고요. 뭐 여러 가지 이제 상황들이 있죠.
For example, if an inmate wanted to catch a rat to eat it, he or she would have to report that or to get permission from the prison guard, and the prison guard, depending on what the situation is, he would want to see how the inmate would go about catching and eating the rat. So he would command or order the inmate to eat the rat in front of him.
하지만 이제 그런 모든 것들은 이제 우리가 여러분들이 생각했을 때는 뭐 정말 말도 안 되고 상상하기 어렵지만은 이것도 물론 이제 수용소 안에서는 너무나도 자연스럽고 너무나도 당연한 일이 되는 거죠.
And of course, for all of you hearing this, for all of you, it's very hard to imagine or to comprehend. But for us inmates that were in the prison camps, it was the only thing that we knew. It was natural and it was an acceptable thing.
What happened if you didn't ask the guard for permission and you tried to eat a rat on the side?
뭐 이제 이 수용소에서 정해진 법이나 또 이 간수의 이 말에 우리가 오겼을 경우에 그거는 이제 간수의 기분에 따라서 뭐 용서해 줄 수도 있지만 그렇지 않을 경우에 대부분 뭐 밥을 굶긴다든지 뭐 때리기도 하고 좀 심할 경우에는 뭐 공개청까지 하는 그런 상황.
Well, anytime an inmate broke the rules of the prison camp or disobeyed the regulations of the prison camp, the punishment basically depended on the mood or the temperament of the prison guard. So many times we would be denied food, we would starve, or we were severely beaten. And in some severe instances, some inmates would be publicly executed.
Sometimes even for trying to steal food or get food on the side. That was sometimes punished with execution.
뭐 예를 들어서 이제 수용소에서는 뭐 토끼도 기르고 뭐 개도 기르고 뭐 닭도 기르고 이런 것들을 이제 기르지만은 그건 대부분 이제 우리가 먹을 수 없고 간수가 먹어야 되고 뭐 이런 음식들이 있는데 만약 그거를 이제 몰래 훔쳐 먹었다든지 했을 경우에 뭐 굉장히 큰 죄가 되기 때문에 뭐 공개 처형 당하고 그러는 거죠.
Well, in the prison camp, livestock such as rabbits, chicken, and other animals were raised. Obviously, not for the prison inmates, but if an inmate stole an animal and ate it, that would be punishable by death, for example.
And there were many occasions when you yourself tried to get food any way possible just to survive, right? That was something that was on your mind all the time, as I remember from the book.
물론입니다. 뭐 거기서 살면서 제가 탈출할 때까지 단 한 번도 이제 먹는 거하고 이제 전혀 이제 다른 생각을 해본 적이 없고, 물론 저도 이제 땅바닥에 떨어진 뭐 옥수수 집어 먹어봤고, 이제 쥐도 물론 뭐 수없이 많이 잡아서 먹어보기도 했고요.
Of course, food was always on my mind. That was basically the only thing that I thought about until the day of escape. And during my stay of life, during my life in the prison camp, I ate countless rats. I ate corn, pieces of grain that fell to the ground. So that's what I did to survive, to be able to eat and survive.
하지만 제가 했던 모든 행동, 그때 뭐 했던 모든 행동들은 다 살기 위해서였었죠.
However, all the actions that I took back then, eating different kinds of things, that was done in order for me to survive and not die.
그래서 뭐 여러 가지 처벌받고, 뭐 밥을 굶기는 처벌을 받고, 뭐 매 맞는 처벌을 받을 때도 항상 저나 다른 뭐 우리 수용소에 사람들한테 머릿속에는 항상 제발 죽지 않기만 바라는, 또 제발 이 목숨만 살려주길 바라는 그런 마음을 항상 가지고 있는 거죠.
So for all the inmates, whether we were punished by having our food denied or severely tortured, beaten, the one constant thought that ran through my mind, and I'm sure through the minds of other inmates, was that please don't kill us. Please don't let us die. Just allow us to survive and live.
이제 제가 아마 평상 정말 정상적인 여러분들의 생각이라면은 아마 만약 그런 수용소에 누가 갇혔다고 했을 경우에 자살해야 되는 게 아마 정상일 겁니다.
And I'm sure all of you sitting here, the normal or the common sense thing for anybody who would be incarcerated in that sort of environment would be to commit suicide and to kill oneself.
하지만 내가 사는 동안 그 누구도, 그 어떤 죄수도 그 안에서 자살하려고 했던 죄수는 단 한 번도 본 적은 없습니다.
However, I never saw one single inmate attempt to commit suicide or think about killing themselves or try to kill themselves while in the prison camp.
Because the urge to survive was so strong.
뭐 저도 탈출하게 됐던 가장 큰 원인도 이제 먹는 음식, 이 수용소 밖에서 다른 사람들이 이제 우리 죄수들하고 전혀 다른 음식을 먹는다는 얘기를 들었었기 때문에 그걸로는 뭐 아무리 저희가 정말 짐승 취급을 받고 정말 끔찍한 상황을 당해도 그냥 사람만 있으면 된다는 그런 생각이었던 것 같아요.
Well, yes. For me, my biggest motivation or the reason for escape for me was to be able to eat the food that I never imagined existed before. To try to eat the food, and even though we were treated like animals, that was one of the motivating factors for, at least for me, to stay alive and to experience that.
Now, for me, when I read Blaine's book about your life, one of the aspects that impressed me the most and frightened me the most, I think, was the description of how the desire to stay alive, the desire to eat, replaces what we think of as morality. Within that world, it's a very logical decision, right? I mean, you can't think about anything else. So you're growing up in this place where you don't have normal family relations. In fact, you saw your own mother and brother executed. You don't even have money in this world, right? What the camp guards say is law. And yet, at some point, you begin to sense there is another world out there, right? There's a world of friendship, of love, of self-sacrifice. When did you first begin to feel that those other things existed? How did you come to that?
뭐 수용소 안에서는 뭐 나생 처음 이제 탈출하기 전에 다른 사람을 통해서 이 수용소 밖에 대한 얘기를 들었을 때에 처음에 이제 보지도 못했고 듣지도 못했었기 때문에 믿지는 않았었습니다.
Well, through this other inmate who had been sent to the camp, through this particular person, I was able to hear for the first time in my life stories about the outside world. And of course, at first, I did not believe a single thing that this inmate told me.
하지만 이제 저를 이제 탈출하게 했던 그 마음을 가지게 했던 거는 이 수용소 안에서 전혀 저희가 처음에 말씀드렸듯이 뭐 수용소 안에서 이제 똥이 이런 여러 가지 끔찍한 것이 박혀 있는 먹을 거라도 이제 우리는 파먹어야 되는, 그래서 살아야 되는 게 우리의 목적이었었기 때문에 수용소 안에 밖에 사람들이 이제 제수들하고 전혀 다른 음식을 먹고 산다고 했었기 때문에 단 하루만이라도 이제 그런 음식을 먹고 싶어서 이제 탈출하게 됐던 게 제일 가장 큰 계기가 됐.
However, in the prison camp system, in that world, it is a world where if an inmate found pieces of grain or undigested food in cow dung, for example, they would pick through that to eat that to survive. So in that world, from that environment, for me to hear stories about the outside world and the food that was available to people in normal society outside the prison camp, for me, that was my biggest motivating factor for me to escape. And even if it was just for one day, to be able to experience and enjoy that, I wanted to do that. I wanted to escape and experience and enjoy that world.
하지만 이제 아직도 저는 뭐 외국에 자주 다니면서 여러 가지 활동하면서 외국에 자주 다니지만 여러 가지 이제 뭐 자유나 아니면 여러 가지 이제 음식 먹고 여러 가지 제가 행동하는 데 있어서 여러 가지 이제 착각할 때도 있고 또 아직 뭐 이런 여러 가지 표현들 뭐 사랑이나 행복이나 이런 여러 가지 자유라는 표현들에 대해서 뭐 전혀 모르진 않지만 또 나름 배우려고 노력하고 있는데도 굉장히 어려운 것 같습니다.
And however, as I travel throughout all over the world speaking and as I visit many different countries and as I enjoy and experience freedom and I get to eat all the food that I want to eat and enjoy all the food, for me, still the words or the meaning of love or freedom, those are things I obviously know more now than I did before, but I'm still trying hard to understand and to know what those things are.
Right. Well, I just want to say that I applaud your courage. I'm still very, very moved whenever I read the book and try to comprehend the story of what you've been through and what the rest of us can learn from it. I can only tell you how much I applaud the bravery that it took to tell us that story.
Thank you.
So I'm sure there are a lot of questions. Anybody want to have a go? Perhaps this gentleman over here?
Thank you so much. There seems to be a tendency among younger generations of South Koreans to minimize the threat from North Korea or to minimize the atrocities of the government. They criticize, they promote the Sunshine Policy. They consider U.S. forces more as a provocation than it is as a protecting force. And they criticize North Korean defectors for provoking the North with their attempts to send radios or balloons across the borders. Is that a fair assessment of the younger generation of South Koreans, or is that more of a small group of people making headlines, I guess, in the South?
Excellent question.
물론 저도 이제 한국 시민으로 이제 한국에서 살고 있습니다. 뭐 또 여러 가지 한국에서도 이제 선거도 하고 이제 투표도 하고 있고요.
Well, as a South Korean citizen, I reside in South Korea and I participate in elections and I vote and I do things I guess a normal South Korean citizen would do.
물론 이제 질문하시는 그런 내용들에 대해서 저도 이제 안타깝게 생각하는 부분들도 많고요.
Of course, and regarding the points you raised in your question, I too feel very unfortunate regarding those things that I see happening in South Korea.
남한에서 이제 새로운 정권이 바뀔 때마다 남한에서 북한인권 활동하기가 약간 좀 쉬울 때가 있고 어떤 정권에 따라서는 굉장히 북한인권 활동하기가 굉장히 어렵죠. 한국에서는.
And in South Korea, every time an administration changes, depending on which administration is power, sometimes it is easy to do human rights advocacy, human rights work. Sometimes it's very difficult to do North Korean human rights activism in South Korea, depending on which party or which administration is in power.
최근에 이제 남한 젊은이들 사이에서 뭐 조금 느리긴 하지만은 굉장히 이제 생각들이 바뀌고 있다고 저는 보고 있습니다.
However, from my point of view, it may be a slow reaction, but regarding the young people, the young generation of South Korea, there has been slow shift or change rather in their perspective or in the way they look at the human rights issue of North Korea.
하지만 이제 국민들은 잘 모르겠지만 가장 눈에 잘 보이는 정부나 이제 국회에서는 북한 인권에 대해서 전혀 관심이 없다고 보고 있습니다. 저는.
And regarding the actual government or the National Assembly of South Korea, I must say that they show absolutely no interest or care regarding the human rights situation of North Korea.
그래서 제가 이제 물론 나름대로 저 혼자만의 결론이지만은 이 남한 사회에서 북한 인권은 전혀 가능성이 없기 때문에 제가 좀 힘을 들여서 하고 있는 일은 국제사회, 뭐 유엔이나 미국이나 유럽에서 이렇게 많은 품을 들여서 이제 활동을 하려고 하고 있죠.
And of course, this is just my personal observation, but I believe in South Korean society, there's no possibility or hope of doing North Korean human rights work. So that's why I try to turn my focus towards the international community, to the U.S. and other countries that I visit.
근데 이제 물론 제 생각이긴 하지만은 가장 이 남한에서 북한 인권이 예면당하고 있는 가장 큰 이유는 경제적인 이유가 가장 큰 거같다고 저는 생각을 하고 있습니다.
And I think one of the reasons why the human rights issue of North Korea is ignored or not dealt with in South Korea is what's perceived to be the huge economic cost or economic reasons.
Sir?
I was wondering, do you think cultural influences are very big at helping to dispel totalitarian regimes? Do you think that the video Gangnam Style will have the same effect that the TV show Dallas did in Romania at bringing about the fall of communism in North Korea? Thank you.
So in other words, Western pop culture undermining.
현재도 이제 이 북한에서는 남한의 드라마나 남한의 영화를 많이 이 북한 사람들이 많이 몰래 이제 보고 있죠.
Currently, in North Korea, a lot of North Korean citizens, they are able to access and view South Korean dramas, listen to South Korean music, and have access to South Korean cultural media things.
하지만 이렇게 뭐 이 강남 스타일이 북한 사람들한테 영향을 주고 그 강남 스타일이 북한 사람들을 변하게 할 수 있는지는 잘 모르겠어요.
However, regarding specifically whether Psy's Gangnam Style song can have influence or effect on the North Korean people, I really don't know the answer to that question.
북한 사람들은 강남에서 어떤 일이 일어나고 있고 강남이 어디에 붙어 있는지도 모르기 때문이죠.
Because most North Korean citizens do not know where Gangnam is in Seoul. They don't know what is going on in Gangnam, and they have no idea what the song would be referring to.
하지만 이제 이거는 어디까지나 제 개인적인 생각인데 이 강남 스타일 때문에 수많은 수십만 수백만의 사람들이 이 노래 하나에 열광하고 이 노래 하나에 굉장히 이제 미친 것처럼 이제 환호를 하고 있잖아요.
However, this is just my personal observation, but countless millions of people through this song and through the video, they've literally gone crazy over the song and video.
하지만 이제 인간이 저지른 이 끔찍한 일들에 대해서 또 인간이 저지른 정말 말도 안 되는 이런 여러 가지 상황들에 대해서 굉장히 슬퍼할 줄도 모르고 가슴 아파할 줄 모르는 것 같아요.
However, regarding the horrible things that have been caused by humans onto other human beings, regarding that issue, many people throughout the world cannot seem to be sad or to be affected by the atrocities and the tragedies that are happening in the world.
제가 처음에도 잠깐 말씀드렸었지만은 60년 전에 우리가 봤던 이 홀로코스트가 우리는 다 지나간 역사라고 생각을 하고 있었는데 제 입장에서 말씀드리면은 지나간 역사가 아니고 지금 현재 일어나고 있는 일이고 앞으로도 일어나야 될 일이라고. 홀로코스트는 끝난 게 아니죠.
And I mentioned before, 60 years ago, the Holocaust that we saw happen in Europe to what the Nazis did. This did not stop then, but it's from my perspective, it's still going on, and if we don't do anything about it, it'll continue to happen.
So, this gentleman.
I have traveled to North Korea as a tourist last year, and I was wondering how you view. Thank you. I have traveled to North Korea as a tourist last year, and I was wondering in what essentially was a propaganda trip. I was wondering if you view such trips by Westerners as a way of funneling money to a genocidal regime, or as a way to raise awareness and to expose North Koreans to other views of the world. Thank you.
아쉽지만은 이제 예전에 어떤 분하고 얘기를 하다가 북한에 관광 가는 사람들에 대해서 제가 욕을 좀 했던 적이 있어요.
Unfortunately, in one of my interactions with another person recently, the subject of a tourist into North Korea was brought up, and unfortunately, I became I became upset and I cussed out the people who go into North Korea as tourists.
물론 유럽이나 또 미국에서 이제 북한으로 이제 관광을 간다고 좀 많이 들었거든요.
And of course, I've heard that a lot of Europeans and some from the U.S. They recently they do a lot of travels into North Korea as tourists.
이제 북한 관광객들이 봤을 때는 북한은 굉장히 신기합니다. 동물원에 동물 보는 것처럼.
And from the perspective, point of view of tourists, it's like they're visiting a zoo. They're visiting a zoo and looking at animals in the zoo when they visit North Korea.
관광객으로 가서 그 사람들이 아무 생각 없이 신기하게 바라보고 돈을 펑펑 쓰고 있을 때에 그 사람들이 밟고 있는 그 땅 밑에는 독재자 발 밑에서 고통당하고 수많은 사람들이 이 고통의 울부짖음을 그 관광객들은 들을 수가 없다는 거죠.
And as these tourists, as they go with fascination into North Korea and spend money here and there, the ground they're stepping on, underneath that ground are the cries of the countless North Korean citizens who are suffering, and the tourists cannot hear the cries of the citizens of North Korea.
북한의 독재자는 외국에서 돈을 벌어들이기 위해서 별짓을 다 하고 있는 거죠.
Because the North Korean dictator, the regime of North Korea, they are doing whatever they can to raise money, foreign currency through whatever means possible. And one way is through these tours into North Korea.
그래서 제 개인적인 생각으로는 북한에 관광을 가서 거기서 쓰는 돈이 대부분이 다 독재자에 필요한 돈이 될 거고 독재자에 필요한 물건이 된다는 거죠.
And this is my personal opinion, but I believe that whatever money is spent by tourists who travel to North Korea, that money directly goes into the coffers of Kim Jong-un and the regime and supports only the regime.
So this gentleman, please.
My name is Don Kirk. I have to plead guilty to having visited North Korea last summer as well. But my question regards another person who suffered in North Korea in a very different kind of experience. That's Robert Park, who has written extensively about genocide in North Korea. It's not clear what kind of suffering he endured, actually. He hasn't quite revealed it. But I wonder if you could tell me or tell us what you think Robert Park went through and what you think of his campaign against genocide in North Korea, which in some ways parallels yours, although his experience was altogether different. Thank you.
물론 저도 이제 로버트 박을 만나봤었고 또 그 로버트 박과 이제 또 대화를 좀 해봤었습니다.
I myself have met Robert Park, and I've talked with him a few times as well.
근데 이제 로버트 박이 당했던 고통을 로버트 박이 자기 입으로 얘기하기 전까지는 그 누구도 모를 것 같습니다. 저도 모릅니다.
However, regarding the suffering and the mistreatment he went through in North Korea, until he himself opens up and talks about it with his own mouth, nobody can know what he went through, and I myself cannot talk about what happened either because I simply do not know.
하지만 북한을 들어갔다 나온 그의 상태는 정신적으로 굉장히 힘들어하고 굉장히 이제 참기 어려운 그런 상황을 당하고 있다는 것만은 저는 알고 있어요.
However, what I do know is that after he came back from North Korea, he has suffered and gone through a severe mental and emotional distress and difficulties.
하지만 이제 로버트 박이 신앙적으로 이제 북한의 정치범 수용소를 위해서 굉장히 기도도 많이 하고 있고 거기에 대한 활동을 많이 하고 있기 때문에 굉장히 감사하다고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
However, Robert Park, as a man of religion, as a spiritual man, I know he prays a lot, and I know he's very active regarding the human rights situation in North Korea, and for that, I'm very grateful for the work that he does.
하지만 로버트 박은 이제 큰 뜻을 품고 북한에 들어갔지만 결과적으로는 이제 그 뜻을 이루지 못하고 공식적으로는 북한 정권에 의해서 쫓겨나온 거잖아요.
And however, Robert Park, he went with this big idea, with this big goal into North Korea, but he came out not able to achieve that, and officially he basically got kicked out of North Korea.
근데 이제 뭐 눈앞에 보이는 성과는 없지만 이렇게도 해보고 저렇게도 해보다 보면은 언젠가는 이제 모든 분들이 이제 생각했던 그런 생각들이 하나씩 이제 현실이 되지 않을까 하는 생각을 가지고 있습니다.
And though we may not see the result of his experience in North Korea happening right before our eyes, I believe through this and through other means or other ways, soon we will see perhaps things happen regarding North Korea.
So, ma'am. And then
Sterling Wright with Global Future Media and Picowatt Energy. Thank you for taking my question. Who in the international community has influence over the regime? How can pressure be projected onto the North Korean government? Thank you.
지금 제가 그 북한 문제를 해결할 수 있는데 가장 그래도 가능성이 조금이라도 있다고 생각하는 건 유엔이라고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Well, from my perspective, the one organization or entity that might have the best ability to deal with this issue, from my point of view, I believe is the United Nations, the UN.
북한은 현재 지금 유엔에 가입돼 있고 유엔을 통해서 굉장히 많은 것을 얻으려고 노력을 하고 있잖아요.
The North Korea is a member of the UN, and through whatever means possible, the country is trying to get or enjoy the benefits of being a part of the UN.
유엔을 통해서 이제 식량이라든지 여러 가지 자기네들한테 필요한 여러 가지 원조를 받으려고 노력을 하고 있고요.
And they are trying to, through the UN, trying to get food aid and food into the country.
하지만 지금까지 제가 봤을 제 개인적인 생각으로 제가 봤을 때는 유엔에서조차도 아직까지 북한 인권 문제에 대해서 이제 적극적으로 이렇게 나서 준 것 같지는 않다고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
However, from my personal opinion, my personal perspective, even the UN itself has not been able to be more proactive in terms of their interaction or their dealings with the North Korean regime.
하지만 지금부터라도 유엔에서 조금 더 관심을 가져주고 예를 들어서 유엔 차원에서 정치범 수용소 문제에 대한 여러 가지 조사위원회 같은 거라도 설치를 해서 북한을 압박한다든지 또 식량을 지원해주지만 그 대가로 정치범 수용소에 대한 여러 가지 진실을 밝힐 것을 강요를 한다든지 하는 여러 가지 방법들이 있다고 저는 생각을 하고 있습니다.
However, even from now, if the UN shows more interest, for example, perhaps setting up a commission to investigate the political prison camp system in North Korea, or as a condition for giving aid, food aid through the UN, perhaps being more the regime being more truthful about the political prison camp system, maybe those are the ways that the UN can be more proactive or helpful regarding dealing with the regime.
물론 미국도 이제 유엔 안에서 영향력이 굉장히 크기 때문에 이런 차원에서 미국이나 여러 가지 유럽이나 이런 나라들에서 이제 북한에 대해서 압박을 하고 이런다고 하게 되면은 가능성이 있지 않겠나 하는 생각을 해봅니다.
And I also think that the United States, it has great influence within the UN, and perhaps through the UN, the United States and Europe can perhaps continue to put pressure on the regime.
근데 아직 물론 이건 지금까지 말씀드렸던 거는 그냥 제 개인적인 생각이었었습니다.
But of course, all these things that I've just shared with you are just my personal opinions, my personal perspective.
하지만 우리 여기 앉아 있는 모든 사람들, 또 밖에 있는 사람들, 또 이 유럽에 있는 사람들, 모든 이 지구상에 살고 있는 사람들이 60년 전에 딱 한 가지 질문을 받았던 적이 있잖아요.
However, for all of you here in this room and for people throughout the international community, there was a question that was raised 60 years ago that we all have been asked.
어제 제가 이제 홀로코스트를 또 방문했었습니다.
Yesterday, I had the chance to visit the U.S. Holocaust Museum again.
어떠한 이제 벽에 큰 사진이 하나 붙어 있었고 그 옆에 여러분들이 다 알고 계시는 질문이 하나 붙어 있었던 거죠.
And in one of the displays, in a big area where there was a wall, there was a big picture, and there was one question that was on this wall in this display at the museum.
그 옆에 질문이 하나 있었습니다.
And that question was,
왜 우리는 이 나치 수용소에 대한 전제를 알고 있으면서도 이 수용소를 폭격하지 않았나 하고 거기에 질문이 있더군요.
And that question was something to the effect of, even when we knew about the existence of the camps, why did we not bomb the camps or bomb the railways that led to the camps?
우리 모두한테 아직도 그 질문이 유효하다는 겁니다.
But I believe that that question still applies to all of us today.
앞으로도 그 질문이 굉장히 중요할 거고요.
And in the future, that question will be very important as well.
우리는 지금도 북한에 있는 수용소를 위성 사진으로 볼 수가 있고 그 안에서 일어나고 있는 사실들을 여러 가지 증언을 통해서 다 알고 있습니다.
Even now, through satellite imagery, we can see and have proof of the existence of the political prison camps in North Korea, and through the testimonies of other defectors and escapees, we hear and we know about what is going on in North Korea in the prison camps.
하지만 우리는 이런 사실들을 다 무시해 버리죠.
However, regarding this issue, we tend to ignore or not care about this issue.
가장 중요한 거는 중고랍니다. 중고가 있어야 된다고요.
And the most important thing is evidence has to be there. We need evidence.
하지만 저는 이제 이런 말을 합니다. 그분들한테.
And however, for those that say that there must be evidence, I reply this way.
60년 전에 홀로코스트에서 끔찍한 사람들이 죽었을 때 그 모습을 우리가 증거로 봤는데 할 수 있었던 게 뭐냐 하고 제가 반대로 질문을 합니다.
And that is, I ask another question, which is, when we saw 60 years ago, when countless people were getting killed through the genocide, what did we do? What is the thing that we did?
40년 전에 캄보디아 킬링필드에서 200만 명이 처참하게 죽었는데 그 증거를 보고 우리가 할 수 있었던 게 뭐냐?
Even 40 years ago in Cambodia, the killing fields, when up to 2 million people were killed, even with evidence, what do we do? Do we take any action?
코소보에서 수십만 명의 사람들이 학살당해서 죽었는데 그때 우리가 그 증거를 보고 학살당한 증거를 보고 우리가 할 수 있었던 게 뭐냐 하고 저는 다시
Even as recently as what happened in Kosovo, when tens and hundreds of thousands of people were displaced and killed, even with evidence, what do we do? Do we take any action?
증거가 있을 때 우리가 할 수 있는 일은 아무것도 없습니다.
If we only take action when we only have evidence, there's nothing we can do at that point.
그 증거는 현실에서는 존재하지 않잖아요.
That evidence does not exist right now in reality.
만약 그 증거가 필요했다고 했을 때에는 저는 이런 인권 활동할 필요가 없는 거죠.
If that evidence is needed or is found, then I wouldn't be doing this human rights advocacy work for North Korea.
제가 하고 있는 인권 활동이 죽은 사람들을 위해서 눈물을 흘리려고 하는 인권 활동이 아니라 죽어가는 사람들을 살리려고 하는 게 인권 활동이라고 저는 생각을 하고 있어요.
Because I believe that the human rights advocacy work for North Korea that I'm doing right now is not to shed tears for the people that have already died, but my work right now, my advocacy work right now, is to save the people that might be killed, that are on their way to their deaths.
우리한테 필요한 게 증거가 아니라 그냥 현실을 보는 눈이 더 중요하다고 저는 생각을 합니다.
We don't necessarily need evidence, but we need the eyes to see the reality of what is happening right now in North Korea.
그 증거를 기다리다가 우리는 다시 한 번 더 60년 전에 봤던 여러 가지 끔찍한 상황들, 40년 전에 봤던 우리가 끔찍한 상황들 우리는 다시 또 보고 다시 또 눈물을 흘리고 가슴 아파만 해야 되는 게 계속 반복이 되겠죠.
If we wait for the evidence, then we will see what happened 60 years ago happen again. We will be sad, we will shed tears, and the process will be repeated over and over again through history.
그래서 제가 좀 전에 말씀드렸던 이 질문, 60년 전에 우리가 받았던 이 질문을 아직도 우리는 생각을 해야 되고 이 질문을 통해서 우리 모두가 다 답을 찾아야 된다고 생각을 하고 있어요.
So going back to the question that I raised, the question that I saw at the museum, that question still applies to all of us today, and that question all of us must find an answer to. We must come together and work to find an answer to that question.
아쉽게도 저는 이 자리에서 여러분들한테 이렇게 하면 북한 인권이 해결되고 이렇게 하면 정치범 성서가 없어진다 하는 그런 답을 드릴 수가 없는 게 저도 너무 안타깝습니다.
Unfortunately, I find it very unfortunate that I myself cannot sit here and tell you if we do this, we can free the prison camps. If we do that, we can produce this result regarding human rights issue in North Korea. And that's what I personally find very unfortunate.
우리 모두한테 받은 질문은 우리 모두가 다 힘을 합쳐서 거기에 대한 답을 찾아야 된다는 게 저희 생각입니다.
So that question that is asked of all of us, we must come together to work and find a solution to the answer that the question is asking for.
Thank you very much. I think we're out of time. Do we have time for one more question? Or? Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, and please let us again. Please let us again applaud Shin for coming here today and telling us about this.